If you've been following the news, on Tuesday, the U.S. Surgeon General issued an advisory on the state of youth mental health. And actually, even before the pandemic, 1 in 3 high school students reported persistent feelings of sadness and hopelessness. And with the pandemic, the rates of depression and anxiety have gone up. For our Radio 101 class, we actually conducted a survey of about 1,600 students in the Winston-Salem Forsyth County School District, and we gathered that actually half of them said that they felt extremely low or sad for longer than 2 weeks. So these are issues that are in the top of all of our minds, and it's really important to have these conversations. And we're going to start this with a little bit talking about a little bit of self-worth and body image. So let me introduce the panel. First, we have our Radio 101 student reporters who work on a story about body weight and body image, and eating disorders. First, we have Sarah Bettis.
Hi.
We also have Kelly Brenner. And we also have Sarah Rhodes Cox. And to also give us a little bit of context and this connection between eating disorders and mental health, we brought Dr. Linda Nicolotti. She's the assistant professor of pediatric psychology at Brenner's Children's Hospital, which is part of Atrium Health, Wake Forest Baptist System. Welcome to all of you. And we are going to be talking about some hard topics, and this can be triggering for some people, but know that there is help available for you at all times. You can reach out to the crisis text line at 741741, and you'll be connected with a crisis counselor, or you can always call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK. That is 1-800-273-8255, and you'll be connected to someone 24/7 every day of the year. So let me start with our student reporters. You girls work on a story about eating disorders, and at the beginning of the semester, I did give you the assignment of we're going to be working on issues about mental health, but I gave you complete leeway in terms of what is it that you wanted to look into. So I'm kind of curious, Sarah Rhodes, if you can talk to me a little bit about the reasoning behind going after this story, and what did you learn through the reporting process?
Yeah, so I feel like eating disorders have become a lot more common in teenage girls recently, but I don't think that this is something society likes to pay attention to, because eating disorders aren't always pretty. But I feel like if you have one, it is such a significant part of your life that's why we chose to do this story, because we wanted to shed some light on that.
I want to play a really quick excerpt from the story that you girls work on, and then we can talk about it. So let's take a listen.
I always think I'm fat, I'm ugly, and I'm stupid. That's always the first thoughts, and it's almost like it's not me saying it. It's in my head, it's someone else saying that to me. But it's just, those are such common things, and people saying, oh, well, you're not fat, you're beautiful. You can be both. There's no way that you can't be both.
This was one of the most powerful moments of the entire interview, and I think that before we even move forward with this, I do want to ask Dr. Nicolotti, because there is a difference between an officially diagnosed eating disorder and just having an unhealthy relationship with food. So I wonder if you can talk a little bit about that difference.
So what would make it an eating disorder would be a pattern of behavior where you're dissatisfied with your body image and appearance, maybe even misperceiving how you look. So some people feel like they look fat, but nobody else thinks that. Or people hyper-focus on part of their body, but nobody else notices that as being a problem. So there's that cognitive piece where you're focused on your appearance, your body image, your weight, and it's often hard not to focus on that. There's also the behavioral piece of that, where you start doing behaviors that go along with that thought pattern. So you may start restricting food, or exercising more, or taking your weight repeatedly every day, multiple times a day, every time you eat. you start to be very rigid about what you will eat. You might cut things out of your diet, not really to be healthy, but more to lose weight. You might cut out entire food groups with an eating disorder. And then with food restriction, there's usually also weight loss that comes with that. And so when someone gets below a healthy weight or loses weight too quickly, that would indicate an eating disorder, particularly if they have these thought patterns and behaviors that go along with it.
Tell me a little bit about what is it that you see with your peers when it comes to like social media, and also like what did you find, because in your story you mentioned a little bit about how social media has impacted like this person that you interviewed. So tell me a little bit about this relationship with social media, and how do you think that is impacting you guys as a whole?
Yeah, so when I look on social media like Instagram, I'll see just my friends posting, but and I'm guilty of this too. When I think teenage girls post on Instagram, we get our hair done, or we do our hair not naturally, and we put on makeup, and we have this really cute outfit on, which is great. But then when other people see those photos, and I've done it too, is you start comparing yourself to that person. You're like, well, I don't look like that when I wear that outfit, or I don't look like that when my hair does that, or my makeup doesn't look as good as hers. And so you start comparing yourself to that person, and I think mentally it can like do something to you, and you start feeling bad about yourself and saying, well, you're not pretty, or you're ugly, like all of these things. And I think it can really take a toll on yourself, which could cause eating disorders or like body dysmorphia and all of these things.
What's the role that like influencers play in all of this?
Yeah, I think influencers play a super big part. Everyone follows influencers on Instagram, subscribes to their YouTube, follows them on TikTok, and all of that. So you see them 24/7, but you only see what they post on social media. But usually what they post is, like I said, with their hair done and makeup, and like their background is so like, it's usually their bedroom and it's always clean. And for some people that may be true. I know for me it is not. And so it's an unrealistic thing. And since they're an influencer, they're supposed to be influencing you and showing you like products that they love or the lifestyle that they have. But in reality, it's an unrealistic lifestyle, And so I think a lot of times you compare yourself to that influencer, and you're like, well, I don't have that outfit, and like I said, the same thing. I don't look like that, and so I think you really just start comparing yourself to them. But I think influencers, it's bigger because you want to be like them so much because they have this great life and these great friends, and you're jealous of that.
Dr. Nicolotti, is there can we make a connection like between actual social media and like these feelings that like Kelly is talking about?
Well, I think youth and teenagers and young adolescents are particularly at risk from messaging they get from media, social media. I think a lot of the images out there project an appearance that really is unrealistic and not real life for people. But yet, teenagers, you all can maybe speak to this. Social media is such an important part of life these days. And I know a lot of teenagers spend a lot of time on different social media platforms, and they're getting messaging, either direct or indirect, about how they should look, about what is important in terms of being liked by other people. And so I think that influences how adolescents and teenagers view themselves and view their appearance.
I want to play another excerpt from the story that you girls work on. This time we're actually going to listen to Elle, the student that you interviewed, talking about the first time that she was actually able to say it out loud that she had a problem. So let's listen to it.
Remember, it was a Thursday. It was during track season, so it was probably like mid early-ish spring. And I went in, and the doctor was like, okay, like mom's gonna go out and we can have a little chat. She asked me how I was doing, drugs, drinking, which no, sex, no. And then I was talking about some of the mental stuff that I was going through, and she was like, okay, like, is there anything else? And I'm like, yeah, there's one thing. And it took me so long to be able to articulate it, even start articulating it. Because I was like, oh, I should not have done this. And like, well, I have to tell you now. Well, okay. And I finally was like, I had to do a motion with my fingers because I didn't know how to say it. And I was in tears, like choked up trying to say it. And it was Thursday in spring.
And one of the things that I think that was most powerful about this piece that we listened to is this inability to put it into words, right? And why is it so tough to talk about it?
Well, I think sometimes it's just difficult to acknowledge to another person that you've been struggling with something. A lot of times with eating disorders, people are secretive about that. They'll keep that to themselves. They'll try to hide the behaviors and the weight loss. So that can be part of an eating disorder in and of itself. I also think there are thought patterns that go along with having an eating disorder where, many people with an eating disorder will deny that they really have an eating disorder or deny that they have a problem, not just to other people, but to themselves. They will rationalize their changes in weight and thought patterns and behavior patterns around eating and weight so that they may at first not even recognize it. I also think there's still a stigma around having mental health issues. So I think some people are going to find that difficult to talk about.
Any tips on how do you create those safe spaces where people are actually going to move past that barrier of I'm not going to tell you about this?
Mm-hmm. I think it's important to create opportunities to have conversations. So, just making time for it, making space for it, doing it in a way where you're not rushed or distracted with something else. I think when you express that you really care about somebody and you notice that they seem to be struggling and give them an opening, then oftentimes people will be more likely to feel that they can trust you and talk to you about something that's difficult.
Chris in Winston-Salem says, I'd like to know how to effectively comfort someone when they share that they are struggling with eating disorders.
That's a great question. Yeah, friends might be most likely to have this conversation first with their other friends. Or maybe you might be the most likely one to notice that another friend is struggling with an eating disorder. Maybe you notice they're not eating lunch at school, or you notice they're losing weight before their family even does. So I think being empathetic, listening, not judging them. I think it's hard for peers and friends because you walk a fine line of wanting to maintain your friend's confidence and also maybe wanting to help them by telling someone about it. So I think if you're really worried about a friend, if you're worried that they've gotten into a danger zone with how they're eating and losing weight potentially, or if they're binging or purging, it probably is in their best interest, even if they don't want you to do this, to tell a trusted adult that does have the capacity to get them the help that they need.
Yeah, honestly, this is the hardest thing about doing this type of events, is that I could talk to you guys for hours and just keep coming with more and more questions. But we do have to pivot to the next segment here today. But I do want to thank our panel, Dr. Linda Nicolotti, thank you so much, and also our student reporters, Sarah Bettis, Kelly Brenner, and Sarah Rhodes Cox. Thank you.